It's now 10:06 and time for the Saturday Special with Michael Zwirling.
Griffin Queener.
That's me.
Hey, Griffin Queener. Would it upset you too much if I didn't ask you the traditional personal question at the beginning of the Saturday Special today, since we got a lot of ground to cover?
Yeah, that's all right. We can skip it.
Are you sure we can skip? Okay, we'll do two personal questions next week.
Okay. I mean, you don't need to, but, don't stress yourself.
Okay.
Good morning. A brighter day is here. Good morning. May we bring you cheer.
We've got time, we've got tunes, we've got time, tunes, and temperature.
Get up and go, it's today, you know, on KSCO Radio.
Top of the morning to all you folks out in KSCO country. MZ here, welcoming you to a substantive KSCO special for a change. I don't think we've had one of these in years, and I hope I don't have egg on my face and this turns into a big nothing, but I think it's going to be a good program. I really do, because I have really smart people as guests. So stay with us for the next 2 hours. You'll be happy you did.
Good morning. Now stay right here on KSCO Radio.
Take it away, Griffin Queener. Shades of the old Saturday debate specials return to your favorite radio station on July 13th as Zoltan, the conservative 50-year assimilated refugee from communist Hungary, meets Paul the Lobster Wells, the compassionate, asylum-friendly, famous Bay Area radio personality. Both of these men are friends of mine, but have totally opposite takes on what seems to be destined to become the defining issue of the 2020 presidential election: illegal immigration. Is it, or should it be, acceptable under any circumstances in the United States of America, ever, especially when it is called asylum? Zoltan says no. Lobster says yes. What do you say? Weigh in on the next KSCO special this Saturday, 10 a.m. to 12 noon, right here on We Refuse to Think For You. We will only direct you to the various paths: radio, AM 1080 and FM 104.1 KSCO.
I'm here for you. I'm Paul Wells, and Zoltan.
Yeah, this is Zoltan Egoresi.
What happened to me? What am I, chopped liver, the host of the show?
No, you just pointed at me like I was supposed to
Okay.
speak, MZ. And dead air is something, as I'm a radio professional type, that
He sure
we
is.
abhor.
Okay, good.
As much as nature abhors a vacuum.
Before we get into anything else, Paul,
Yes.
we need to straighten out. I have never seen a sourer face than watching you.
Oh, I've seen
cringe.
sourer faces.
Haven't seen a sour face.
Maybe not from me.
Since watching you cringe when I play that promo. What about that promo bothered
You're
you?
collapsing things.
Okay.
You're collapsing illegal immigration, which I do not support under almost any circumstances, unless someone falls off a boat, and if they don't swim to shore, they'll drown. There's one. But I am not an asylum. Let's just start with the idea of what is asylum, because asylum is something that's been around for a while. So there was this thing, there are Geneva Conventions, there are international laws. This is from what was set up in 1951, just so we can establish what asylum is, and then separate that, unlike collapsing it, from illegal immigration. So the international legal position on the matter is clear. The U.S. must permit entry and, excuse me for a second, the U.S. must permit entry and afford refugee to anyone it has recognized, okay, as a refugee, or to whom it suffer torture or other persecution. No ifs, ands, or buts. No qualifications on national security when it comes to that issue. Then there's the United States party to the 1967 protocol relating to the status of refugees. This prescribed continuing of the application of the 1951 convention relating to the status of refugees, which was adopted to address the aftermath of World War II. Am I going too fast for some people out there? This is facts. I know some people have trouble with facts. The original convention was agreed to in Geneva, so it's sometimes referred to as the Geneva Convention. As the U.S. voluntarily accepted the 1967 protocol to the Refugee Convention, it legally obligated to implement it. Despite our current president's personal complaints about these rules, in quotes, all other state parties to the protocol and convention can legitimately expect the U.S. to comply. Hence the expression of dismay. Wetly, finish the sentence.
Stop, Paul.
I'm finishing the sentence. I'm finishing the sentence.
Stop.
Why?
Because I'm hosting the show here.
Uh-huh.
Okay? You haven't taken over the show. You're taking over the show. It's my show, not
You're
yours.
not letting me finish a sentence.
I don't want you to finish it.
Why not?
Because I'm the host of the show.
Oh, that's a good reason. Go ahead.
Okay.
You invited me here. Don't.
Get out.
Oh,
Get out.
that
I'm
was
serious. That was really quick. Who do you think you are?
I'm sitting here reading something.
You're a guest. You're a guest in my
Fine.
living room.
I apologize for trying to finish
guest.
the sentence. I'm not mad at you. Why are you mad at me?
Who do you think you are?
I'm me. I'm a human being, and I'm a citizen of the United States.
I can't believe this. He takes over the whole radio show. I'm nothing but nice to him.
We've got 2 hours.
I'm the host of the show.
So?
Shut the F up when I tell you to stop. Do you understand? Do you understand?
If you want me to just
I'm
nod,
the host.
I'll just nod.
I'm the host. You're not.
Obviously, you're at the
I
control.
don't like you taking over my program and making it and reading. If I didn't shut you up, you wouldn't shut up for the whole 2 hours.
That's not true. I was done reading. This is the last sentence.
I'm getting too aggravated.
Well, that's okay. Am I on
His microphone's not on.
Oh. What am I hearing? Is there a radio on somewhere? No. Okay. Zoltan, can we agree to let me be the host of the program that's my program?
Of course.
Okay, good.
Already agreed.
Be a gentleman.
I am.
I don't think so. You haven't been up until now. Let's see if you can be from now on. Okay. We're supposed to be talking about illegal immigration. You're the one who brought up asylum when we had a private conversation. And you say I'm combining the two. The reason I'm combining the two is because you brought it up in a private conversation that we had earlier in the week. Okay? And when I said I want to have a program on illegal immigration, for and against, and you rightfully said, who's going to say that they're against illegal, who's going to say that they're for illegal immigration? And you're right.
I'm certainly not one of those people.
Right, right. And so you said, when there's something, when it has to do with asylum, and that's become the issue in the discussion of illegal immigration in this country these days, right? Isn't that pretty much?
Yes.
You think so, Zoltan?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. What's your position? You are an immigrant. You came to this country, 50 years ago?
Yeah.
And you escaped from communist Hungary.
Yep.
On a kayak?
Yeah, back in 1970. So my circumstances was, the law is pretty much still the same, what Paul was mentioning under the Geneva Convention. The law is that if you escape from a country which you are prosecuted, or you will be prosecuted, or you're afraid of your life, whatever reason, political reason mostly, then the first country where you step foot, by kayak or by foot or by plane, whatever, you can ask for a political asylum. Okay, so that's what I did way back in 1970 when I, escaped from the communist country. And the first country where I could ask for a political asylum, that was Italy. Okay, so they had absolutely no problem, after 5 hours of pedaling and a couple of 2-3 months of exercise, so make sure I can cross the Bay of Trieste, right across Venice. I asked for a political asylum. Okay, so the law is still pretty much the same. I was granted political asylum, but in the same time, I had to go through the procedure, which is still the law, which is not being respected at this time in the U.S. and in Europe, is that you have to, apply in the first country when you put your foot down. Okay, so we have the problem, coming from Mexico. Europe has the problem coming from Africa and all the Muslim flood. So all these, things they are not following the international law protocol. So in my case, I had to go through hearings by the Interpol, the Italian police, then CIA for any information, military, whatever it was, and the reason I am left, and medical check, X-ray, and things like that. So they just wanted to double check it. I'm a bona fide, person who's asking for asylum, which I was granted. Then after that, the process in Italy, back that day, even today, is that you're looking for a country who actually, looks at your qualification, looks at your age, looks at your languages, what you can speak. So based on this, they just want to choose, they can pick the right person for the country's need. And say, we need, nurses, we need electricians or plumbers, or we need computer technology people, so things like that. So you get the point system. This is what Mr. Trump, our president, wants to use also in our system, the merit system. So the merit system, I went through. Actually, I immigrated to Canada, then later on immigrated to the States because the company I used to work for, they transferred me to the head office in North Carolina and so on. Okay, so back to it's the political asylum. Okay, so the other one is the hordes of people are coming through the border right now. They are coached and advertised that you come to the U.S., you ask for political asylum, because unfortunately our law is not that strong. So this way, the flood what we are getting right now overwhelms our system. Then the Democrats want to have all these people here because they would be a future, voters. Since they hate Trump, in Europe, the Green Party in Germany, they want to replace, the white population. They said so in the parliament. So they're flooding it from, Africa and also, Middle East countries. And they created the false, unnecessary war in Libya after they killed Gaddafi. So they just wanted to create war refugees. So the war refugees, actually, those were the ones who were supposed to, ask for asylum. But in the same group, there were all kinds of people from Pakistan, Bangladesh, or Turkey, and Africa. They were all asking for the same thing. And unfortunately, these people went through all kinds of coaching and the NGOs supporting it. And that is a huge problem because Europe got over 1.5 million illegals, false IDs, or they come through the border where their fingers are actually, they just try to sandpaper their fingers so they wouldn't be able to trace. They throw their documents away. When the documents is thrown away by Geneva Constitution, agreement, they cannot be sent back to the country because they even lie where they come from. So I'm also afraid that some of these people are coming to our southern border. They are doing the same thing. So were they going to be deported once they find out that these people are asking for asylum based on coaching and propaganda and so on. So that's the difference between asylum and economic migration, which is not exactly legal, unless you ask for a visa and you go to the proper channels, and if you don't, sooner or later they're going to be deported.
Paul, do you have a problem with anything that Zoltan said?
There's not a problem with it. There is, questioning whether or not some of it is supported by statistical facts rather than just supposition in terms of the numbers and who's doing what are the organizations, these NGOs that are doing this coaching, where do they exist, where is it documented that this is what they're doing to coach people to come into this country to answer the right questions that'll get in. In terms of getting on the other side of the American border from Mexico, there's 2 stops involved. One of them is Mexico. How the situation is changing right now, because you mentioned Africans. Africans are coming up through Central America at this time, and they come to the border with Mexico, and a BBC report, which I can quote some things from, there's Cameroonians, and the Cameroonians are getting to the Mexican border. They're not even getting into the van to go across. Now the Cameroonians had to sit down in front of the vans that take people across, because the Cameroonians would be told and the Africans would be told, nobody's going in the vans, and then all of a sudden the van will pull up and fill up with people. And of course the Mexican officials said, there's no corruption here. If they could speak Spanish, they probably knew the right connections. They could get on a van to cross the country. I can't imagine. I'm shocked to learn that there might be any bribery involved with Mexican officials. That would just be so beyond the scope of what's possible. But there was one gentleman there that they were interviewing that he spent 2 months on the Tijuana border, and he hasn't been able to get to the point where he even gets to present himself to the American side of the border, to our U.S. Customs officials, to explain why he's seeking asylum. And if you know what's going on in Cameroon and Central Africa right now, there's genocidal war going on. And so a lot of our problem is in terms of trying to separate illegal immigration from asylum, which is a word that Zoltan uses as well, because he was an asylum seeker. The separation is a difficult process. It's a difficult process, and you have to authenticate people. It's not always possible. People have been sent back over time, not since any particular administration, when they weren't able to substantiate the idea that they were in jeopardy if they went back to their original country, which is what the rules that were internationally adopted state. So I'm curious, Zoltan, when you got here, what questions were you asked?
Well, you mentioned the Cameroonians, first time I hear about it, okay? Mm-hmm. When you talk about BBC, it used to be a very reliable radio. Like 40, 50 years ago, they became completely leftist and pro-migration. So I haven't heard about it, I haven't checked about it. But since you're checking on some of these European migration, France been flooded with migrants, and so is Italy. Okay, so right now, fortunately, we have a very good, president in Italy. So the EU is really hateful toward them because they are stopping the illegal migration. So one of the boats was the Sea-Watch, okay, which is a German NGO, and most likely is supported by Soros too, and the rest of the international NGOs, where they were fishing around the northern part of Libya in the Mediterranean coast. They were just waiting in the outside of international water, and they were dropping people off in Lampedusa and also in Sicily. So the last few weeks, the Lampedusa, they got, I don't know, like 29 or 49, migrants from Africa, and they were begging for Italy to, bring them in, let them in. So the Salvini says no. Okay, the European countries will have to, pick them up and send them out. Okay, to different countries. So Spain and Portugal and Germany, they agreed to pick them up. Then comes another young lady from a German NGO. Okay, she actually ran one of the Italian, Guardia Finanza boat, which actually a Coast Guard in Italy. And subsequently, she was bringing in some, she was trying to, break the migration stop, through the Mediterranean. So then she got arrested. Okay, and her NGO boat was confiscated. I don't know if you heard about it or not. Okay, and they found a liberal judge in Italy, so she's free on bail, something like that. But in the meantime, Italy is stopping all this migration. Okay, in the same time, and actually before, might as well look at Hungary. Okay, I was born in Hungary, so finally we have a president who has a law also to keep the people out who's not a bona fide asylum seeker from all these Middle East countries, because if you have Pakistan, if you have other people coming in from southern border of Hungary, there are at least half a dozen countries where they can ask for asylum, and they don't. They all were trying to head to Germany or Austria to get a better life, because a migrant there gets a free housing, okay, free education for the children if they have any. Then they get financial support. So some of the Muslims, okay, in Germany, they have 2, 3, 4 wives. So once a guy is in Germany, he gets after 1 year they get the residential permission to stay, the resident permit. Then the German government has to pay for the extra wives to come in. As one of the person, which is not too far from Stuttgart, I believe, the guy has 3 wives, and he's 49 years old, and he has 23 children. So all of them are on government support. Okay, so the German people are finally getting pissed because, hey, we have to pay. That's our tax money. A German guy who's retired gets less money than some of these people who never worked a day in their life in Germany. And they have to pay for it. Right? So fortunately, Hungary was strong enough because President Orban was able to get over 75% mandate to govern the country. They set up a fence. One fence wasn't enough. They set up a double fence. Anybody crosses illegally in Hungary, they get picked up within the border area. They throw it back to the first fence. So they are in no man's land. So, hey, we give you water. You go back wherever you came from. Okay, because they throw away the papers. They send paper their fingers so they wouldn't be able to track it. So the whole system is totally abused. So that's why hundreds of thousands of people who crossed through Hungary, they destroyed fields, farm fields, the trains. They defecated all over the first class. They were raping some people, not to a large degree, but again, this happened, and Hungary finally stopped it. Then the East European countries, they call the Visegrad 4, okay, that means Czech Republic, Hungary, Slovakia, and Poland. They all stood up against this forced migration, which was actually, the plan by the EU to flood Europe with the Muslims, and also, be against the Christianity, reduce the value of the faith. So that is happening on, and finally Italy is on the Visegrad 4 side. So is Austria. So things are finally happening in the right direction.
So what my question was, what was your story about your immigration to America and your asylum seeking? What you gave me as an answer is a whole lot of hyperbole about people defecating on trains. And,
no. That was the current, Muslim hordes was going to Hungary. People don't know that Hungary was occupied by the Muslim in the 15th century for over 250 years.
A lot of people. That's a lot of history that people don't know. That's definitely one of them.
Yeah.
Well, now, correct me if I'm wrong, but is Hungary one of the countries that, after the Soviet Union fell, after Russia lost its grip on the Eastern Bloc, as it was referred to, was one of the countries that dissolved into kind of an ethnic war, where it was Hungarians or Croatians, or is it one of those countries that was involved in that?
No, not exactly. In 1989, that's when the Russians they finally, the Soviet Union finally fell apart.
Mm-hmm.
So this socialist system, with some of the young people educated like that, they all brainwashed. The socialist system is so wonderful, so it fell apart in 1989. So the way it started, the East Germans had enough of it. They started to come through Czech Republic, ask asylum in Prague, then also ask asylum in Hungary, to go to West Europe, mostly West Germany at that time. And Hungary actually opened a trade. East Germans, take the train, go to Austria. We're not going to hold you up. Okay, that actually, let the people, the flood of the, East Germans to go to Austria, then to Germany. So that really started the collapse, of the border. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So we have a situation. Let's get back to what our situation is. Because our situation is that we have far too many people trying to get into the U.S. from the southern border.
Yep.
And one thing that the Trump administration did was to change the cap on the number of people that could be assimilated daily. And that went from 90,000 to 22,000. And I'm not talking about any one border crossing, and I'm only talking about the legal border crossings. I'm not talking about people hopping fences or digging tunnels or coming aboard on a raft and going around that way. At the other side, there are over 9,000 people waiting to get into the U.S., and a large percentage of them, I did not write down the percentage, and I don't consider the BBC a leftist news organization. I think it's very easy to say whatever you don't like, whatever's the other side, then that has to be leftist. If it's a point that we don't agree with, then we're going to label it leftist. BBC has a long tradition of being very, very factual.
I disagree, but that's okay.
And a lot of media organizations are immediately labeled as leftist. And I think, and I know, that we have a polarization based on that rather than finding solutions to the problems that we have. Because part of the problems we have with immigration is, why are people coming? It's not just the fact that they're coming, it's why are they coming? Where have we perhaps broke it and bought it in terms of countries like Libya, which we interfered with,
Yes.
countries like Nicaragua, which we interfered with, countries that are sending or people are trying to escape from because their life is extremely dangerous where they live. And we don't take any responsibility for that part in terms of the debate right now, because to me, and this is just me as an independent U.S. citizen not representing any organization, I'm aghast at the level of vitriol in the debate, because part of it is dehumanizing people. To say that people are hordes says that every person who's a Muslim who wants to come in this country is someone who is part of an evil pact. And I don't believe that every Muslim person, or even the majority of Muslim people, are evil. Are there evil people?
Who said that? Did Zoltan say that? Did I say that?
Well,
who said that?
Because he said Muslim hordes. Zoltan said that.
No, I said that the Muslims were coming. Okay. Okay, Pakistan.
Is that untrue?
Syria?
People are trying to get into this country.
Is what he said untrue?
That they're hordes? I don't think that's a proper word to use.
Well, were they raping people all over in
then
Greece,
you're saying they're
in
raping.
Italy? They're stealing things? They're vandalizing things?
Well, you're not saying just the Muslims do that. I mean, there's
Well,
other people, right? I mean,
Well, I wasn't there personally, but all the information what I have, okay. Here is the information. Okay, here's Italy. Salvini closes Europe's largest migration center. Okay, 4,000 people, migrants from Africa. Okay, so some of those people. Okay,
Sicily is what you were
Sicily. Okay, all right. Okay, so some of those people were setting up the Nigerian mafia. They were setting up all kind of prostitutions. You know, and they actually overtook a city north of Naples, about 70 kilometers. Okay, they're running the drugs. I was over in Italy, I think the last year, outside of Milano. Oh man, it's blacks were all over, the Africans. Okay, you know, the stinks just like here in San Francisco, some places, you know, becoming dangerous to walk there, and when you walk around the street, you have to be careful. Don't step into some kind of pile of feces, because you're gonna get some kind of disease. So anyway, so you're looking at the Salvini closes, okay, and Italy confiscates migrants' boat, okay? All right?
Wait, let's just pause here for just a second, because you hand me the piece of paper, and everything that you said is not on this piece of paper. About people defecating and about how it smells and how it's dangerous.
Where did they go to the bathroom?
What is here, I'm not in Sicily, so I don't know where they go to the bathroom. The migrant center that was closed down in Sicily, called it a center of drugs, prostitution, and violence. Be that as it may, it was the largest migrant reception center in Europe, and it hosted up to 4,100 migrants in 2014. Now, where this is from is EU Observer, Euro
that is
Observer.
The Guardian, which is a leftist newspaper in England.
Is it?
Yeah.
EuroObserver.com, because I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, that's
I like
okay.
to know what my sources are.
That's okay. Now, here is another one, The Guardian. Italy plans fine to NGO boats €5,500 per rescued migrant. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, you can bring up BBs here. That's okay. You know,
this is from Breitbart. Thank you.
So what's wrong with Breitbart?
It's the rightist organization.
So what's wrong with right?
What's wrong with left?
Well, you and I, we talk, we don't fight. Okay. The problem is that what I see is that, you know, if they want to flood people, you know, right now, if they want to flood California, the U.S. with you know, everybody from South America or Central America, you know, first they come in, okay, they overwhelm the system, all right. Then we have criminals all over running in California. San Francisco, we had over 25,000 cars broken into, okay, in the last year.
That was all done by immigrants, illegal immigrants?
I have no idea. Okay, why don't you ask your police commissioner? Everybody who comes through the border, you know, it's not checked. Okay, sanctuary city, sanctuary state. So they can rob and steal whatever. Okay, you know, constantly on KSC. Or how many times I hear that, you know, people get robbed or some kind of crime committed by, you know, some kind of a, you know, Hispanic name. I don't know all the information.
Wow, that's so racist.
I'm not racist. My girlfriend is Mexican too. I speak Spanish. All right. I don't have a racist bone in my body. Okay. All right. So I don't care if you're black. I don't care if you're you know, a Muslim. I had a Muslim doctor operating on me. Didn't bother me.
Well, it wasn't going to slaughter you.
Well, not that one, but that was
a doctor for crying out loud. They have certain codes that go above what our normal morals are.
I think he's trying to appeal to you that he's not racist, that you seem to think he is, because you made that comment a minute ago.
Because the invective is racist when you make generalizations about people.
No, I don't hate anybody. Okay, I play soccer with Mexicans. Okay, every Sunday.
Zoltan, that's great. I'm not.
Okay.
I didn't sit here and say, look, there's a difference.
You're the one who introduced the word racist.
I didn't, because racism is inherent. Racism is part of how we look at the world. People are more afraid of Muslims and brown people and black people than they are about white people, and especially white people. And there's a lot of white fear right now, and there's a lot of white supremacists going around helping to stoke that fear by saying that nobody, everybody coming across the border is a rapist, and they're going to do this, and they're this kind of person, and that there's Sicily was the home of the Italian mafia, but that doesn't make it, it doesn't make every Sicilian part of the mafia. In fact, some Sicilians fled to America to get away from the mafia.
Yeah, that is true too.
And so the debate that we get stuck in becomes one of racial fear. And I'm looking at, where is our problem from? How do we stem the tide? Because I don't believe that families, let's talk about families. Let's talk about not some single person whose only goal in life is to find victims. Because there are criminal elements all over the place, and they come in all colors. And I'm talking about families and people with children. One is, why do they want to come here? Well, there's always been a reason why people want to come here, because we represent freedom, even if we have trouble dealing with the concept ourselves. The other part is that there's something in their home countries that's a threat to them, and they're willing to leave their homes if they're still holding on to their homes, if their homes haven't been taken over by some militia or some military organization that may be a slightly different ethnic than their ethnic, because the Bosnia and Herzegovina, that conflict was totally driven by minute divisions between people. They decided to go to war with each other, and that was a war of genocide on probably a lot of parts. I'm here in America because my grandparents immigrated. I'm a second generation American, and I'm proud of it. Each one of my very young at the time grandparents left Europe before World War I because they didn't feel safe staying there. The only thing they had in common was they were all Jewish. To some people, that makes me a non-white.
So why did they feel unwelcome?
Because they saw the handwriting on the wall.
Okay, all right. So who is?
And they came to America because they wanted to start a new life.
Okay.
They all came here as single people, not as criminals, but as decent, hardworking individuals.
Good to know.
And they made a life. They ran businesses, started families, and that's the root of it. They all came through Ellis Island. They were all processed, and our system before 1920 processed people a lot quicker. Well,
because there were also a lot less people. Okay.
Far fewer people. Right?
Yeah. Okay. Right now, there's you mentioned the families. Okay. And in the media, there's a lot of talking about the families are separated. Some of these 30% of these families, when actually bring a child, turns out, after the DNA test, they're not even, related. So in other words, they are actually buying children just to bring them over with single, guys. Okay, here's my son or here's my daughter, just to bring them over, just to get through the asylums. So they are, free to come in and they don't get deported. So, many times happen when the Child Protection Agency goes after a family. Oh, you left your child on a playground unattended. There's people selling drugs in the neighborhood or bad neighborhood, etc. Okay, so the parents get prosecuted. So why don't they prosecute some of these parents who actually, place these children to the hands of the coyotes in the south of the border, and put them on a train, top of the dangerous train rides, and go to the border? They get separated. Then Trump gets the blame for this.
There were children separated from their parents at the border.
Okay, but the parents,
You're trying to absolve Trump from any responsibility in the policy that we undertook, which separated children from their parents, whether they were their legitimate parents with a DNA test or not. We didn't bother to find out first. We just separated them.
We have a flood.
Yes, you are right, Zoltan. We should have done all those steps, but we didn't. We didn't even figure out how to identify who the parents were when later on we tried to reunite them, and then we have kids being kept in positions in terms of, and I'm not going to besmirch people who work for ICE, but not everybody who does that job is a nice guy. There's a Facebook site that was exposed on that where they're not good people. They're actually extremely racist, the ones that are part of that, and it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 40% of the ICE people that are involved. So
they're not racist. They're working. They're doing their job.
The ones that are doing their job are doing their job. You see, the generalizations are dangerous. And so the generalization...
You came pretty close to a generalization with 40%.
40% is a number.
Okay.
So that means 60% are good.
Okay.
That means the majority of the ICE people are doing their job.
That's good.
Yeah, but you have to look at it. When it used to be, tens of thousands of people per month coming, now we have hundreds of thousands, okay? And finally, Trump, I sent the fax to them, the White House, what to do. I advise the White House, okay, I don't know if they have read it or not. We should send some of our soldiers right at the south border of Mexico to hold the, migration right before they even come up to the, U.S. border, U.S.-Mexican side, all right?
I've never heard that before, but...
I suggested it to them, okay, so I don't know if they did it or not, but right now, actually, they are doing it, forcing the Mexican
What do you
military.
think of that idea, Paul?
In terms of what Mexico should have a responsibility for, Mexico needs
Zoltan just said we should do it. We should send American troops. Did I misunderstand you, Zoltan?
Across the border? Yeah. No, you're not saying that we should invade Mexico, are you?
No, not Mexico. Go to the Guatemalan side. Okay? The Guatemalan people are invading us.
At what point does the United States of America border Guatemala?
Well, okay, what point do we have to absorb 1 million people from Central America? This is where they come. Let the military go there, okay, just to at least some of the major points.
That's worked so well in Afghanistan.
I know,
Iraq.
okay.
I mean, you just sending our troops and putting their bodies and their blood and their lives on the line to follow some government policy is absurd to me, because that's how wars get us in deep that we can't get out of.
Well, okay, fine, okay. We have people invading our place, okay? I even advise the White House. I don't know if they read it or not.
Are you okay with that word, invade, or do you think that's an incorrect characterization?
I'm talking about armies and not people.
No, but the regular civilians can invade it too, our place.
Do you think the U.S. is being invaded, or is that too strong a word?
I think that's too strong a word. I think that we're being targeted, yes. And we're being targeted in lots of different ways. So I don't think that.
I need to understand that. Please
start with Putin. We'll work our way down. So America is targeted by a lot of people who want to disrupt this country, who want to cause chaos in this country, who want us to be at each other's throats, who are sowing disharmony and influencing our politics by spreading lies and hate speech and fear, especially fear. And I'm more afraid of how we have set up ourselves for this situation by not understanding the consequences of sending our soldiers into places. What happens there? And this is just a personal story. This is not a stat. I'm not quoting Breitbart or anybody else, or The Guardian or anybody else. But just watching the news one day, when we went into Iraq, and then we suddenly had Saddam Hussein's sect of Muslims, because W didn't even understand there were 3 types in Iraq.
Yeah, that was a problem.
Yeah, that was a problem, because the Sunnis don't get along with the Shiites, and then you have the Kurds. So he didn't have that distinction. So the Sunnis, which Saddam Hussein was the leader of the Sunnis, who were a majority, not a majority in their own country, managed to take over the country and harshly ruled over it. So there's a shopkeeper trying to shield his son from Sunni insurgents on one side and American soldiers on the other side in a shootout in a town square, like any town that any one of us live in. Outside of his shop where he had his son. He gets killed shielding his son. Whose bullet was? I don't know. Did it come from both sides? Possibly. The point is that this innocent individual with a child gets caught in a crossfire that we set up by being there, by trying to impose a will. And maybe we did that too late, because the time, to me, in terms of Hussein, was after he went into Kuwait, that we should not have stopped after we drove them back across the border. It's kind of, to me, that you don't kill a snake by cutting off the tail. And Saddam was able to come back and haunt us. Leaving him in power, came back to haunt us, and has caused destabilization in a world that is now part of that world in Afghanistan and Iraq. It's not less dangerous now, and it's even more dangerous right now.
No, it's no.
But who's the kid? The point is, who's that kid going to blame when he grows up? Who's going to be around to talk to him? He's going to get radicalized, and then 20 years down the line, we're going to be facing this same problem. And so you have to win the peace. If you can win a war, but you have to win the peace. The Marshall Plan in World War II was a way of winning the peace. The things that we could have done with Afghanistan rather than go into Iraq was turn it into a great place instead of running out of Afghanistan and leaving it to the Taliban to form and take over. We could have done more there, but we got focused because of a vendetta between W and Saddam Hussein, who was at one time our ally, especially in his war with Iran. So he had tried to kill or instigate the assassination of George Herbert Walker Bush. Bush 1, our president. And so when pressed about why are we going to Iraq, and questions, which are part of having a free press, is you get asked real questions, he went in the press conference, W, and said, well, after all, we're talking about the man who tried to kill my father. That's a direct quote. So, I felt like, well, thank you very much, Mr. Hatfield. Let's go get those McCoys. Yeah. We get involved in these conflicts. Okay. And that's my concern is not if you wanted to have.
Okay. I know why we went off on this tangent because of something that Zoltan says about sending our troops to the southern border of Mexico. I get it, but let's move on. Okay.
No, let's talk about Guatemala.
We haven't had any calls. I haven't invited them, but we do have a caller now, and I want to invite the calls because the program's almost half over.
And you haven't given the phone number out once.
Exactly. Nor have I told people during the program that we are talking with Paul Wells and Zoltan Egarisi, the guests on the Saturday special today. But I've told them now, and I'll try to do a better job of telling them every 5 minutes. If you're just tuning in, we are having a discussion about illegal immigration, and we would like to invite you to participate as the listener to KSCO. 479-1080, that's in area 831. Give us a call if you want to become part of the program. You can also email mz@ksco.com. Let's take our first caller, Rory. Hey, Rory. Welcome to KSCO. You're on with Zoltan and MZ.
Hey, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, MZ. First off, thanks for having this important forum. And I want to bring it back to our asylum laws, which they've been cobbled together since and added on to since the Geneva Convention after World War II, probably even before. And they're not sacrosanct. They can be changed, and they need to be changed. So, as I understand it, asylum seekers are supposed to seek asylum in the first country they enter.
That's
so
correct.
Anybody coming from El Salvador, Nicaragua, any of these other countries south of the border, they're supposed to request asylum in Mexico. And we have an agreement with Mexico that their people cannot seek asylum here. Okay? That's why you don't have Mexicans seeking asylum at the border. It's all these other Central American countries. So what I see is, and I'd like to know who's funding outfits, NGOs, whatever they're called, like Fronteras, or no, what is it? It's Borders Without something Sin Fronteras.
Yeah, Fronteras Sin
Pueblos. Excuse me, Pueblos Sin Fronteras.
Yeah.
Okay, there are leftists, communists, collectivists, internationalists, whatever you want to label you want to give them, Paul. These people are crashing our border. And this is flat out being done, not just here, as Zoltan says, being done in Europe. They're crashing our border. They're overwhelming the system. I don't know if it's the Kalirgi plan from 100 years ago, the influence of the Frankfurt School in our universities, but it's become a full-on assault on our republic. And we have representative republic. We have representatives we vote in to make our laws and hold. We can hold them accountable, and that's what this is about. And this is wrong. We shouldn't have. How are people from Cameroon getting to Mexico? These poor peasants. Somebody's paying their way. People have been paid. They didn't walk. You go back to the Central Americans, whether they're from El Salvador or Nicaragua. They didn't walk 2,000 miles to the U.S. border. They were bused. I saw the videos, and some of them were very violent. I saw Central Americans throwing rocks at Mexican immigration officials where they had to withdraw. They were breaking the windows out of their vehicles. This is an invasion. It's exactly what it is. So I want to know who's funding. I'll put this to you, Zoltan, and you, Paul. Who's funding Pueblos Sin Fronteras? What is this group? What's going on?
Yeah, it's funded by all the leftist NGOs, okay? Then some of the money is coming from our own State Department, too, which was some of them allocated to support some of these countries. Then after that, the money is allocated to them. The president cannot change it, just like the same thing happened over in Bosnia. They were funneling money against legally acted president, and same thing happened in Hungary, and the same thing is happening in Mexico and in Central America. So Mexico already has the information from some 18 different NGOs. For some reason, they don't want to give this information to the Trump administration, so they could actually, file a claim against it and seize the bank account, because that's aiding and abetting the illegal immigration.
Wow, it's something like when you look, and I don't want to dwell on Libya, but who crashed Libya and got Gaddafi murdered? That was when Clinton. Hillary was Secretary of State, and it's on both sides, the Clintons and the Bushes, destabilized these countries.
Well, and
they lied to us.
And they lied to us, and
you
what
could
they
go back to Reagan for that too.
Yeah, fine. Okay, what they really wanted to do in Libya is to kind of get all the guns out of Libya and ship it over to Turkey. So they created the ISIS. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why our ambassador in Tripoli got killed. So all Benghazi, okay, that's Benghazi, okay. So all the guns were shipped over to Turkey. So the Erdogan government was shipping it over to ISIS. So they built up a formidable army there. And thanks to Obama, he turned over $1 billion worth of equipment, U.S. military equipment. So they and then what they really wanted to do with Erdogan is to move over 1 million migrants per year, and also have membership in the EU. So Macron and his predecessor before, that's what they agreed. Then finally, when Trump got elected, some of these things kind of went south. Okay, Trump got rid of the ISIS within 6 or 9 months. There's no more ISIS problem in Syria. All right. So,
well, thank you, gentlemen. I'll continue to listen. I know we're getting close to the hour.
Yeah,
thank
exactly. You. Yeah, 15 seconds.
Rory knows this station well.
Yeah.
Nice to hear from you again, Rory.
Yeah. Okay, we got an hour ahead of us, gang. So stay with us.
2 degrees out right now. We're going to see a high of 78 with the rest of the week sitting in the high to mid 70s. And it's now 11:06 and time to return to the Saturday special with Michael Swirling.
Oh, hello, darling. I hate to hang up on you, but I'm sorry, baby, but I have to go. It's time for that wonderful record show. I'd love to visit, but you'll have to come back. KSCO has the inside track.
Okay, we're having a discussion today about illegal immigration with Paul Wells and Zoltan Egarisi, and you.
I'm sorry, baby, but I really gotta go to KSCO Radio. Bye.
Okay, let's see if we have any emails. Let's see. Okay, well, Rory says it's a great show. Thank you. We love Rory because he gives compliments, and you want to, we love compliments. Kip says, hello, I'm noticing that you are not discussing how to chew bubblegum on Mars or health this, yet health that. Today's topic is right on this strong theme that we are all aware of. You are constructing my Saturday rather than have me choose one notch up, as in another channel. Weekends are now dead on radio other than your shows when on topic. Thanks, I love you, from a coastal lefty. Wow. What did you just say, Zoltan?
Just don't do a lot of karaoke.
I think, well, I made the promise to you because that was a condition for you to appear.
For those of us just joining us.
Okay, all right.
And I keep my word. I wouldn't have even mentioned it. You're the one who brought it up just now. I wasn't
no
going to say a word.
Karaoke today.
Okay, all right.
Red circle, line, karaoke in the middle.
I do keep my word. Always. Okay, and thank you, Kip, a lovable coastal, coastal lefty who loves us. Are there any other lefties who love us?
I love you, Michael. With MZ, I love you.
And
I'm not even a lefty.
Well,
I'm lefty because I'm left-handed.
I think you're a little bit lefty.
Yeah, you think so?
Okay, well, we can put that out to the audience and see what they think, okay? But we do have Rick and Salinas, so let's take him next, okay? Hey, Rick and Salinas, welcome to the Saturday special with Paul Wells and Zoltan Egarisi and poor old MZ.
And poor old MZ, too. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah, I tuned in late, so I called in earlier when you weren't taking calls, and so I'm calling back. Question that I don't see. Zoltan, I believe you probably know this, that George Soros, he tried to break up Hungary as well as a couple of other countries over there in Europe, and he's the one that's been behind all the advertising in South America and Central America. I'm telling these people to come up.
Who? I didn't catch the name.
George Soros.
Oh,
George Soros.
Oh, we're blaming George Soros. Okay, that's good.
Why? You like him?
I didn't say I liked him or not. He's a straw dog. He's somebody whose name we throw up when we want to.
But he's throwing out hundreds of millions of dollars all over to help the migrants. Okay, and one of the things he was doing in Hungary is he set up a university and he set up all kinds of curriculums to how do you feel? Are you a boy today? Are you a girl today? And all the gender garbage and the Hungarian government said we had enough of you. Politically, he was supporting the communists, the MSNP Communist Party, and it was creating a lot of problem. And also they were sending out unmarked credit cards to migrants, with MasterCard. So in other words, you go to the, cash machine someplace in Greece or Serbia, other places where the migrants are waiting. So tens of thousands, there are some around 2,000 euros per day, per month they were getting. So some of the money is coming from the Soros, yeah.
Now, I'd like to add this also, because this is a globalist situation. They have to take down our country so they can take the world over. Our country stands in the way of this, and the swamp is being drained by Trump to try to stop this. These are Republican globalists and Democrat globalists. You can tell by their way they vote on this stuff.
That is correct.
Yes, exactly. So when we got 2/3 of the Republicans that are globalists, and mostly probably 95% of the Democrats, if not all of them, they're working together against the population of our country. They'll do whatever it takes. That's why they haven't changed the immigration laws, because the laws on the books are ridiculous. And then they get them advertising, and they tell people how to come up here, what to say, bring the kids with you. If you don't have a kid, get another kid. And you got the drug runners down there that are charging an arm and a leg just to run these people up. They're, human trafficking, pedophilia. This thing with Epstein is going to break wide open, and you're going to find all kinds of names of people in Congress. The last time I talked to a representative that was in there years ago in the 1980s, I heard him on a radio station. I called in, and they said in the 1980s, 2/3 of the people in Congress were pedophiles. That's what they were saying in 1980. Now, whether that's true or not, I have no way to know. But we're going to be seeing these names coming out, because anybody associated with Epstein, how he got away with stuff. So you got everybody.
Paul asked you a question.
My microphone's very low.
Okay, well, let's turn it up then. Go ahead. Yeah, Paul, ask the question again.
Who are they?
The globalists.
No, I'm talking about who are they? They as in your particular point of information that you are swallowing, that 2/3 of Congress in the 80s were pedophiles.
This was a representative that was in Congress, in the House of Representatives.
The name?
I don't know. It's been a long time ago.
It will come out.
But
wait for the invite.
He was saying back then how
we don't know which congressperson, but it was a congressperson who said it.
And by the way, Paul,
that's
do you have an email address? I will send you plenty of stuff if you want. You can look it over.
I don't need to read your stuff.
No, that's not a very kind thing.
I don't need to read his stuff, and I'm not giving my email out over the air. That's all.
Oh. Okay.
I have a right to do that. You can send it. MZ gives this email out. MZ can forward it to me.
Well, if you want to question me or Zoltan or anybody else that calls in, if we have evidence we want to show you, you can take it for what it's worth. Either believe it or don't believe it. But if you're just going to be closed-minded to it...
I'm not closed-minded to it. I said send it to MZ. I'm not on a radio station to give out my email.
MZ, tell me, I've sent you numerous things. You even told me stop sending for a while.
Well, that says it right there, doesn't it?
But no, because I sent him a lot of
I'm not
stuff
producing the show, but I'd love to hear who the other two callers on hold are.
All right. Well, anyway, the bottom line is this: is the globalists are trying to take us down. We do not have Republicans, and we do not have Democrats. Forget those. They're useless parties. We need to get rid of both of them and clean them out. And hopefully this draining the swamp will do it. We have people that are fighting this so that they don't take us down. If they take the United States down, that's the end of the world. Everything's going to be controlled through the United Nations and whatever major organizations are out there. And that's so.
Rick, thank you for calling 479-1080. Want to get some more calls to that number, 831-479-1080 or mz@ksco.com. Colonel Terry, I think. Yeah, you're on, Colonel Terry.
MZ, good morning, gentlemen.
Hi.
Morning.
Paul, I'm a person who's a liberal on a lot of things, and I'm intelligent and highly educated, unabashedly so, and well-informed. So my politics are what I call the smart wing. I'm neither right-wing ridiculous to an extreme nor left-wing lunatic to an extreme. I'm in the smart, well-informed wing. And where do you consider yourself? Paul?
I take in information, and I make a critical judgment based on what intellectual information I'm given, and I try to separate out the stuff that is just crap that people throw around to stoke other people's fears.
Fine. What is your occupation, sir?
I'm in media. That I guess disqualifies me for some people, but I'm in production.
Okay.
mostly.
Now, and you're in favor of sanctuary city and county and state in this case?
You know, I didn't vote for sanctuary cities, and I'm in favor of finding a way out of the morass we're in, and I want to see what solutions we might have, because we've got a broken world situation, and for someone to say, "Oh, we're just going to dump everybody out of the swamp in Congress," yeah, right. What, are you going to go in with an AK-47? What exactly is your plan for that?
Let me stay on my point.
Yeah, please.
I don't want to divert to yours, okay? And my points are very relevant to the topic today, and I'll go through them precisely. What I say to Sanctuary City devotees and supporters here in Santa Cruz is, how many illegal immigrants are you providing sanctuary to in your home and providing them meals and housing? And none of them is doing so, but they want to impose that on me and my taxes. Next point. We must look at the big picture wisdom of the reality you refer to on global population and demographics and so forth. Do you agree, Paul, that the Dalai Lama is a person of wisdom and compassion?
I don't know him personally, but he's supposedly one, yes.
Well, I mean, he's certainly known for that, to have wisdom and compassion.
Well, he has compassion, he has wisdom, and he also is someone who seems to have a joyful spirit.
Yes. Well, I've had a 90-minute conversation across a picnic table with him in 1998.
Nice.
So let's move on. The Dalai Lama recently has said to the overpopulating third world, poverty, why do you have and overbreed children in your households, your families, and your communities that you know you cannot provide for economically, culturally, etc., and for their future? It's immoral, illegal. It should be illegal. It's immoral and unethical. And if you believe in sin, sinful, says the Dalai Lama. I can prove it. To overbreed children you cannot provide for in your own household. Now, he's also said to the third world and the invasions of Western Europe, he has said Western Europe must belong to the Europeans. He's also said to the third world, Muslim and in Latin America, you have an obligation to fix your own country. If it's unlivable, then your fate and opportunity is to form and fight the corruption, fight the cultural impoverishments in your own culture, and fix those. You do not have a right to take your poverty to North America and to Western Europe. That's what the Dalai Lama has said. I can show you the evidence.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Yeah, well, because he's got wisdom. Remember, you agreed with me he had wisdom.
I haven't found anything, Colonel, that you've quoted that I don't agree with in terms of
looking at his just quoted the Dalai Lama on the computer.
Also, you realize that a lot of the overpopulation, well, let's just say that the Catholic Church's ban on birth control might have stoked a little bit of overpopulation.
And I, as a former Catholic, condemn the Church for imposing pregnancy and denying pregnancy prevention to millions and perhaps now billions of Catholic women worldwide. But the Muslim religion has done the same thing to women there. So
Correct.
There's a cause of overpopulation. But let's come back to, my nieces and nephews who range from ages 3 to 13, they did not cause the overpopulation. They did not cause the poverty. They didn't cause the corruption. They did not cause the horrible living conditions in places like El Salvador and elsewhere, or in Africa and Asia. Why should immigrants be allowed to come in here, especially illegally, and have those illegal immigrant children compete with my nieces and nephews later for housing, jobs, food, room on the highways, and so forth?
What a great question, Colonel Terry. I can't wait to hear Paul's answer.
Plus another thing I want to add is they're going to be, all these illegal children are going to be in school. They don't speak English, so they're going to bring down the level of the education to either lower level, or they're going to be forcing our American children to learn Spanish because the other side, they're not willing to assimilate and learn the English.
Let me read again, Paul. Why should my nieces and nephews, ages 3 through 13, have to be pushed aside to accommodate illegal immigrant children who will compete with them for housing, jobs, room on the highway, food, and water? Question mark, Paul.
If you say illegal immigrant children to me, that's a different topic than
well, any illegal immigrant, including their children.
I am not here to be the straw dog for this discussion, okay? I'm not here to be, the punching bag for the debate in terms of something that I am not the person to talk about, because I have my own beliefs. So I'm not here to represent point counterpoint, which is something that MZ and I discussed before I agreed to come on and after I agreed to come on. The thing that I'd like to talk about is solutions. I don't think that we are aware of right now, because the news is filled with ICE going out and apprehending, people supposedly tomorrow. That's going to be happening. But right now, there's a sharp drop in migrant arrivals on the border. Now, there's probably a bunch of factors involved, and I would give Trump credit for the idea that maybe it's a little less attractive to come right now. But
let's come to the big picture. You said solution. You prompted solution. You don't want to answer my question.
I answered your question. I'm not for that, and I'm not going to take a position for it because it's not my position, and I am not sure exactly how we sort it out. Because
I'll tell you how we sort it out. The Dalai Lama said how to sort it out. He said, first of all, recognize the big picture reality that the overbreeding third world impoverished places must recognize they are responsible for producing children they cannot provide for. Did that 20 years ago, so now we have 20-year-old men from El Salvador. Their cultures failed. They failed to have honest governments, fair economies, and then they overbred people for the resources available there. They should be stuck with that. They should deal with that themselves. That's called moral responsibility. It's called ethical obligations. It's called recognizing reality. That's the reality. Secondly, on the Muslim immigration matter, Germany, the German taxpayers are now required to build mosques in addition to supporting Muslim families with 29 children. They're required to build mosques for Muslims. They're demanding mosques. They're demanding Muslim schools. And my mechanic at one of my mechanics at my Mercedes dealership in Monterey immigrated from Germany with a senior-level engineering credentials from Germany. Why did you leave Germany doing so well? Because he and his wife decided they do not wish to live in a country that's going to be invaded, as their word, by Muslims. Because the Muslim plan, and I've seen this announced by mullahs for evidence, migrate to Western Europe, migrate to the United States, and then overbreed our children. And I have heard a Muslim mullah say to a British person in a serious dialogue, this will not be your country, it will be our country, referring to the Muslim immigration and occupation. Western Europe fought off Islamic invasions from 754 at Charles Martel in the Battle of Tours until 1725 at the gates of Vienna. We are being invaded, we the West, and that's their plan. They do not share our values towards respecting women. They don't share our values towards being truthful in business with non-Muslims. They do not share our political democratic attitudes. They do not share our concepts of justice and civic engagement.
All Muslims. Is that what you're saying?
Those are the facts. And they should fix their own countries. As the Dalai Lama says, Western Europe and the West belong to the Europeans and the Americans. Even Mr. Compassion and Wisdom has said that. Now, so those who support Sanctuary City and Santa Cruz are such hypocrites. And so short-term, well-informed, misinformed. Again, looking at the big picture, let's count. The whole world, half the world would like to migrate here in the billions. We cannot absorb all of them, nor are we obligated to. So the solution is to tell the third world candidly, you'll have to stop overbreeding and you'll have to stay there and fix your nation, or your fate, as the Dalai Lama has described, is to maybe die there, but you must change your own countries.
It'd be great if we get the Pope to say that.
What? And the Pope, well, the Pope. Well, there we are. The Pope's caused a lot of the problem in the Catholic world of overbreeding, overpopulation, and poverty. And the Pope has walls in Vatican City. I've been there multiple times. The Pope has guards. The Pope isn't letting people migrate into Vatican City in large numbers. Why not?
And if you remember that the Pope was also at the border of the U.S. by the Mexican Tijuana, and he was actually agitating the third worlders to come on into the U.S. So that's when Trump said, "Hey, Pope, just get off the podium and just go home and watch your own wall. We'll manage our video."
Leadership wants more little Catholics in the U.S. populace here. Overcome a
Terry, great call. Thank you for calling 479-1080. We have quite a number of other callers that we want to get to. Thank you for your call. Josh, inside the radio station. You're on the air, Josh. Hello?
Howdy. I'm actually, can you hear me?
Yep.
Excellent. Well, I just wanted to pick the host and the guest's brain about this one subject, which is regarding Gavin Newsom's announcement wanting to allow health care, state-sponsored health care, to up to, I believe it was like 80,000 residents or so.
90,000.
90,000.
And who's going to pay for it?
Immigrants.
Yeah, the host, MZ, is very much against what our governor has suggested and almost can't believe it. Okay, now, what about the other guest? What about each of the guests? I think we know what.
Yeah, Zoltan said absolutely no. Okay, who's going to pay for it? Okay, Paul, what's your answer?
I think that universal health care should be something we have in this country, and people shouldn't go broke fighting cancer. But I think that we need to have a secure system for our own people first before we start giving other people who are not here legally the same kind of protection. By the way, I went and took a blood test, and Medicare turned me down 5 out of 5 of the blood tests. So if they think that getting on Medicare is going to be the solution for everything, it's not. For the illegal immigrants, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get health care, which is part of why our health care system is broken.
So it's unanimous among the three people here. You're against. We're all against what Gavin Newsom has proposed.
I'm not in favor of just blanket giving health care to people. If there are some health problems we identify, and they're already here in America, and we don't want them infecting our population, then we need to deal with it, because that's something that should have gone on before they even came in.
Can you say deportation?
Yes, and we are. One thing I wanted to bring up is Mexico has heightened its own border security. They've added more than 20,000 Mexican security forces.
You gave Trump credit for that. I gave him
credit for the fact that the actions are probably dissuading people from thinking that it's going to be a piece of cake to walk across the border, which it's not. But Mexico is holding people on the other side. Not exactly, but the most apprehensions on the border were during W's administration, more than now, and more than Obama. But that's I looked that up. Yeah, to make this in terms of Mexico, let me just get back to that. So they have done two things with their newly formed National Guard. Mexico has put troops on their southern border with Guatemala to stop the flow coming in from the southern part of their country, and they have also put troops on the northern end.
Thank you, Donald Trump.
Congress has approved last month a $4.6 billion border aid package, which gave about $3 billion to the Department of Health and Human Services, that has allowed that agency to move more quickly to get children out of Border Patrol facilities and to its own better equipped shelters. And then with more Central Americans stuck in Mexico hoping to go home at this point, we're finding ways to get them on buses, because they gave all their money to the coyotes or whatever, or to eat to get to where they are. And now what we're undertaking, and not we, but in Mexico, is sending buses back to Guatemala and Honduras and giving them a free ride home.
That's good.
And that can take some of the pressure off, too.
Josh, did you want to add something?
By the way, one quick thing.
Yeah.
None of the people on those IOM buses have said they were seeking asylum in the United States. None of them. They were just wanting to come.
Because they probably found out they're not going to get it.
Probably.
Go ahead, Josh. What's up?
So one last thing I wanted to add regarding the whole healthcare bit as well is when I heard that news, I felt conflicted with that as well because, like, universal healthcare, great thing. But at the same time, I think of one of my friends who has Medi-Cal, the state-sponsored healthcare program, and it took months for her to just get the therapy that she needed. And I'm just think, well, if that's the case, imagine somebody who has like an urgent need, who's like so mentally down and out on their feet, and they just have to get in line and wait months. And it's just like, oh, we're going to add more people onto that system. Like, it's already overburdened as is. And that's why I wanted to chime in on that too. It's just like,
and if I can add something to it, if these people have an emergency, they're gonna flood into the emergency. Then all the U.S. citizens who actually pay for their health insurance, they're gonna be waiting. So it's really causing a lot of backup.
Okay, thank you very much for calling 479-1080, Josh from inside the station. Let's go now to Dan in Pacific Grove, who has a quick comment. I for a minute I said compliment. I thought it said compliment, but it says comment.
If you want him to do a compliment,
I do. I always prefer compliments to comments.
I do have a compliment. Gentlemen, I want to commend all of you for maintaining a very civil discussion in what often becomes a these areas of discussion often descend into vitriol and personal attacks, and none of you are doing that. So,
wait a half hour, okay?
It'll be over by then.
Were you listening at the beginning?
But I think you've undertaken a very difficult, complex topic, and given a very limited space of time. And this topic, looking at the illegal immigration, the immigration issues we're discussing today, all these involve areas of history, culture, law, economics. All of these areas lead to the dilemma we're currently faced with here locally, and is part of an international conflict, in my view, that which is rocking the world. I think involving powerful institutions and individuals vying for control. And I would say the underlying topic is globalism versus nationalism. And globalism,
you're absolutely right.
Globalism, as I use that word now, is the elimination of nation states and the vying for control. Well, that's the definition.
Well, since that's not the topic, I don't...
Well, but this is an outgrowth of that. The topic is, I believe, an outgrowth and an expression of that underlying conflict, which is international in scope. And nationalism, as I define it, is the existence of nation states. And this nation states, that is a part of a customary international law, which has evolved over many centuries. And we are faced with the question, given that a nation is an expression of a culture, and that concept is in international law also, do cultures have the right to have nations? It's given that there are different people have undertaken over time, historically, to express their culture in formation of societies, different ways of living. So
Dan,
this
it said you have a quick comment. This is I love
that was my comment.
It wasn't very quick though, but
I say something.
But as long as you preceded it with a compliment, I'm okay. Go ahead, Paul.
Your definition of nationalism, we'll take that as a definition of nationalism. Although some people decided that nationalism in this country means I'm white, you're not, therefore you're not in our nation. This nation, America, the United States of America, is formed, was formed, will continue, no matter what the end result is of this time, was formed as a nation of immigrants. If you go to Hungary, you're a Hungarian. If you go to England, you're British. If you go to Ireland, you're Irish. But people of every, including Zoltan here, of every nationality that come here form what is America, and what it actually has as a strength. What we lose in the nationalism versus globalism debate is the fact that we, as a country, as the United States of America, as a nation, are made up of every other nation on earth, period.
Well, I would say that this was, I believe, the first nation founded on an idea that this nation, as far as a dominant culture was Western European, but we defined ourselves as a nation based on an idea, not an outgrowth of a tribe or a race, a specific ethnic group. That is the basis of our philosophy, our tradition.
Okay, Dan, thank you very much for calling 479-1080. Now we're going to Estelle in Santa Clara. Thanks for waiting, Estelle. You're on KSCO.
Hi. Thank you for taking my call. First, I want to say that I was listening to the Colonel, and I agree with what he was saying. Now, another thing I want to say is that we have to start praying for America, and we have to start praying for President Trump. Now, the Lord put him in charge. That is why the Democrat does not like him. They hate him. They do not know why they hate him, okay? But they do. So if we do not get President Trump again for the next 4 years, it has been predicted that America will get worse. So what I'm saying is that I was not born in America. I came here. My husband brought me here. We were married, and he brought me here. We did all the papers. Now, all the people in Asia and in Africa, the little children that are dying with starvation, they are not able to come here because they are not able to come in a boat in the water. So these people over there close to Mexico, Honduras, they know that they can come here because they will get free. America will give them everything free. Now, I've worked 40 hours plus working again after my husband died, and my 2 sons serve in the military, and I still work. What I want to say is that Gavin Newsom is not giving, like this gentleman before me, whatever he said, but Mr. Newsom is going to be giving, starting next month, over the age of 25, all Medical and Medicaid to all the illegal immigrants. Okay? So now they do receive help right now. The children receive help from the as soon as they're born up to the age, I think 19, they get free health care and free dental care. I used to work for Dr. Medical and Medicare. So this is our problem. We have a very serious problem, and no one seems to have an answer. No one seems to know. They all talk. They all put down President Trump. They have absolutely nothing good to say. Nothing. I've heard the worst name. I have lost clients because I voted for President Trump. And I said, okay, I am walking out right now. I am walking out because the Lord told me to. And what I'm saying is that, please, pray for our president, pray for America. Don't let this happen to America, because I know how long I've been here and what I have, what a blessing it is to live in America. I did not cross through the bushes and the jungle to get here. I waited 5 years to become American citizen, and we had to go take a test, okay, and being interviewed, and the questions that they asked me, you do not want to know at the time that I came. So this is what I'm saying. Please.
Well, I want to know. I want to know some of the questions. Would you mind?
Oh, no. Please ask me.
What you said I don't want to know. What is it that you think I don't want to know?
What questions were you asked?
Yeah.
To get into the country as the wife of a guy who was a citizen.
They would put you through I was interviewed by an officer that would ask me. I was already married and I waited 5 years. I had the green card first, and then you have to wait to become a citizen legally. And my husband paid a lot of money to bring me here. They would ask me, have you been a prostitute in America?
Crazy.
Oh, yes, that was.
They wouldn't be allowed to ask that question now.
You sure?
Well, of course,
yeah,
they don't ask the question now.
Have you been a prostitute? I'm not sure either way. I'm not sure that
I think it's
that
a
one
safe
president out of 45 that we've had is the only one that's ever been ordained by God, and I'm not sure which God that is that's doing the ordaining.
Excuse me, I am a Christian lady. I was raised in a Christian faith.
I don't doubt that.
I married my husband. I was a virgin when I married him, and I met him, and he brought me here. And I have 2 American sons. They were born in America. And I don't collect welfare. I don't collect food stamp. I have worked with the homeless, and I am still helping them. Our seniors, the American ladies, seniors, are collecting food every Saturday from the church to be able to survive because they are not able to buy food. They ran out of food before the end of the month, and they're not able to buy their medication. Can you believe this?
Okay. I want to thank you for calling, Estelle, and I hope you'll call again. I appreciate the call.
I will, but thank you so much, and please pray for America because we have people praying every day, and we are not going to stop praying for President Trump. We cannot lose him. We have to keep him going for him to save America.
I will drink to that.
Yeah, it's a good call, Estelle. Yeah, thank you for your call. Yeah.
Thank you. Robert in Watsonville.
I'll pray.
You're on KSU.
Not for the same thing.
Hi, this
okay. You have a right, Paul.
And I don't hate him.
Robert, you're on.
Hey, how you doing? This is Robert from Watsonville. I just wanted to make a few points here. I understand that, there's no future without a past. You have to understand the whole United States, Mexico, what the relationship has been. You also have to understand what is the key point here about immigration. Immigration benefits United States in many different aspects and ways, and I could tell you many reasons how or why. But it seems like information is getting misplaced, and people are being misinformed about really what immigration is about. Like the guy was saying earlier, immigration has been basically America. Now, let's take it farther back. Let's just question this. What will the natives of America would have said when the Europeans came to the Americas as far as laws? Or let's ask the African Americans that were slaves for 300 years. See, everything that people could talk and say have not gone into the past to see what the reality is. The reality is that America has had his time. He did really good. But like that guy was saying, it's all about globalization. That's what's happening, and America does not want to face globalization. Unfortunately, we have this world power that a lot of people with extremely wealth and power are pretty much taking over everything. You want to talk about, it sounds like every single thing they blame immigrants. for whatever reason, it seems to be the problem of everything. Well, let's grab the real problem. The real problem is economics. Let's talk about, and no one talks about it, let's talk about military expenditure. What the percentage is that goes to military expenditure. You know that you are right now, 2019, where about 57% of the budget that gets generated by taxes goes to military expenditure, and not many people are even aware. You know what the percentage is for people that are actually making and spending all this money, what it actually goes to welfare, education, transportation, all these various things that are very important to the people, unless you just agree with the government expenditure, that actually will make sense. I give you just a brief breakdown. 57% goes to defense and homeland security, 6% education, 5% urban development, 3% goes to energy, 3% to transportation, labor is only 2%, food and agriculture is 1%. So I ask you this question. Are you really mad because immigration is the problem, or is it that you don't understand what the money is going and you just blind trying to pinpoint somebody? You know what? It has always happened. Immigrants are the ones who pay. What happens in Europe when Hitler trying to push and get people executed, such as the Jews? What happened? They started pointing the finger at immigrants. Jewish were high-skilled people. They worked hard. They had they basically worked for what they had. But guess what? The system was going at that time, bad economy. So who they blame? Immigrants. This is no different than what is happening here in America as we speak. They're blaming immigrants simply because there's other things such as our budget, such as our deficit, which it keeps adding up, and no one seems to know absolutely nothing. So let's just take and tackle the battle. The battle is globalization is becoming the new reality of America, and if people don't wake up, guess what? We're going to be no other or no different than any other foreign country that we see. I hope we don't get
I can sure see that. Thank you for calling, Robert. We appreciate
all
the call.
All breaks down to money, power, and sex, doesn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. Dick in Santa Cruz, about numbers. Hi, Dick. What about numbers?
Yeah, that guy's wrong. He's mixing so many things together. We have an unprecedented number of people coming across the border illegally and seeking asylum for various political reasons, mostly. They're escaping.
Well, I think the asylum thing is just a new excuse, just a new wrinkle.
Yeah,
and I think it does go. Paul and I disagree on that.
It's an old reality.
Well, Paul and I we're always going to disagree. You don't correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm because I've gotten it wrong a couple times already with the promo and so forth. So you think that asylum and illegal immigration do not belong in the same discussion because they're two different things, right?
I believe they're not the same thing. I didn't say don't belong in the same discussion.
Oh.
You can't collapse the two on top of each other. I mean, let me just give you one quick example, and it is a quick example. Okay, one of these Guatemalans, his name is Carlos Mauricio Lopez. He's a Guatemalan immigrant. His first court hearing to be able to come into the United States is set for October 4th. Meanwhile, if he had to buy his own bus ticket back to Guatemala, it would cost him 3,000 pesos, about $155, one-way ticket back to Central America. So money's already gone to smugglers who guided him to the United States. But he didn't come here because somebody in an NCO talked him into it. He came here because of the American dream, the dream of coming to America, the dream of freedom, the thing that we tell everybody in the world we represent. And he sold his land. They say his family sold their land so that they could make the journey and realize the dream of coming to America. And they don't have a ticket to go home. What's worse is they sold their land. Now, we have to maintain some sort of pride in what we represent, and at the same time have some sort of control, because the immigration system and the asylum system are both broken. They're broken systems.
Can I say something?
Yeah, let Dick talk, please. Go ahead, Dick.
Yeah, I just wanted to, come down to earth about the numbers. Okay, that's why I called. Now, the lieutenant governor of Texas, he's the only one kind of bringing it up, and that is everyone they catch. Now, I'm not talking about asylum seekers. I'm talking about the catch. The ones they capture, I'm going to cross, which has really gone up a lot too. Everyone they catch, 3 get through. Okay. Now, the catch right now is about 1 million a year. All right. And there's a lot of catch and release going on with that, because if you have a kid, even if you're Mexican, they're going to release you. So it turns out that it's not 1 million a year. It's like 4 million. That's this last year. And the thing about the money that Paul brought up was, I think that's very important that nobody's talking about either, because the money that these guys, really, they make $6 an hour south of us. $6 a day. So how do they come up with $12,000 to come up here from Honduras? Well, it's simple. First of all, they're attracted as hell because of the Democrats and everything they're doing to stop Trump and advertise asylum. But they're indentured servants to the cartels. So all the money, they come up here and they have to send all their money back to the cartels, the money that they fronted them, the money. Or the cartels will just go after their family down there. So it's a horrendous situation, and we need a wall, and we need to get tougher. And just like we need to get tougher with homeless in Santa Cruz, it's so ridiculous. We just have to get tougher everywhere. Otherwise, we're going to be totally invaded, and the globalism will take over.
Okay, Dick, thanks for calling 479-1080 and being a great call. Annie in Felton
hello,
claims
gentlemen.
that we already have the solutions. I'm all ears.
Indeed. I'm actually absolutely exhausted at hearing the circular conversation of people. The solutions have already been discussed and implemented in the past, and trying to bring those back, it's just falling on deaf ears. Nobody wants to hear the solutions. And that is, all good things must come to an end. It's proven time and time again. And if you look back at earlier centuries, immigration movements, the one thing that helped people achieve the American dream and succeed in this country was assimilation. And people aren't assimilating. I personally know several immigrants, not necessarily from South America or Mexico, but from Italy, Sicily, Germany, who just want to bring their problems here and not change or assimilate or achieve the American dream. They want it for their kids, but they refuse to do it themselves. And they constantly badmouth America, and it's like, why are you here? We need to clean house, get rid of the people who don't want to be here, aren't here legally, are criminals, build the wall, close our borders, get population under control, get our own house in order, providing universal health care for our own citizens, American citizens, and empower the people who want to achieve the American dream by learning and using the language and, the generic culture of America, quote unquote, and instead of being enabling and disabling people by making it easy for them to just recreate the problems from home here and on our soil. And there's a whole lot of discussion about how it worked in the past, and nobody's listening. It's just do it. It's common sense.
Okay.
And
I think a lot of people just listen.
If we want to be bleeding hearts, we can build a sanctuary cities for them in their own countries. And, Lord knows we have enough military presence. We can militarize and enforce sanctuary in their own countries so they can stay at home.
Oh.
And not bring it here.
Thank you for calling 479-1080. Annie in Felton. Here's Jack in Santa Cruz. Jack, welcome to the Saturday special.
KSCO. Hi. This is Jackie's job. Okay. My buddy. Hello?
Go on. You're on. You're on. We only have a few minutes.
Okay. I want to say I'm an immigrant, too. I want to take exception to what Robert said a couple of callers earlier.
Okay.
The statistics he gave you are completely confused. The military doesn't take 57 of the U.S. budget. A better figure is to say that in the past 20 years it has never reached 3% of the GDP of the total production of the U.S. So this guy is confused. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He shouldn't be taken seriously. Now, the previous caller, the caller previous to me, made a claim that I hear all the time that many immigrants don't want to assimilate. I think that's largely an optical illusion. The fact is that if you go to a town heavily inhabited by immigrants like Watsonville, you will see signs offering English lessons all over the place. You hear it on Spanish language radio, it's all over the place. Mm-hmm. The optical illusion, or rather the auditory illusion, comes from the fact that as immigrants and their children assimilate, they are replaced by another wave of immigrants fresh from Latin America. So there is this impression that we have this population that tenaciously refuses to assimilate, including with respect to language, but it's not true. In fact, they're just new people coming in all the time. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jacques. Appreciate your call. Yeah.
By the way, the budget that we currently have, it's over the most recent statistic I pulled up was 54% that goes to the military, and the defense budget authorized for 2018 under President Trump is $700 billion in defense spending. So
okay.
It's not a misnomer to say that the majority of the money does go to our military.
All right. Go ahead real quick, Zoltan. You have
I just quickly want to mention here, our students are brainwashing. They're trying to change the history, over and over. They are,
Ooh, I can't wait to do a Saturday special all on that topic.
When the California School Board has voted to paint over a mural at the George Washington School. So I saw it on Channel 2, Oakland station, that they found a Chinese girl, an African-American girl. Oh, they're all screaming, oh, so much pain is coming for us. We have to paint over this historical picture, all right? So in other words, every time you turn around, they're brainwashing the kids with, global warming or changing the history. And they already, the board voted $600,000 to paint over this historical picture.
How do we bring global warming into this? That's a whole different conversation. I kind of like think you're just taking the paintbrush and just splashing the paint, Zoltan.
Well, okay,
you tell me why
$600,000.
Hold on. I am not for that. I am not for revisionist ideas. Yeah. I'm not for taking out the mission bells because the missionaries were oppressive.
I'm happy
I'm not for that at all.
Good. Happy you said that. Let's go to Mark.
I'm not for the right wing taking over the Betsy Ross flag, and I'm not for taking it away.
Okay, Mark and Aptos, you're on. You're the last caller.
Yeah. The woman who said that we're conditioned to hate Trump and we don't know why. I totally agree with her. We have to stop letting our minds become the property of the state via the media, mind control. We've got to stand up to our freaking media.
Okay. Even this freaking media.
Well, as a matter of fact,
at least you halfway attempted to expose Stephen King, so you're better than most.
You got me this time. Okay.
Do I have another sentence to say?
Well, there's only 30 seconds left. I want to thank Paul Wells. I want to thank Zoltan Eggerisi. I want to thank all the callers. And I want to thank Griffin Queener. And that's it, gang. See you next week, okay?
Thank you, MC.
Do this to me.
Yeah, here. Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Now, what?
Stupid.
No, wait a minute. What's he complaining about? 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 What's he complaining about?